Welcome to the Cash Flow Couple Podcast. I am your hostess with the mostest, Wendy Williams, here with my husband, John Williams. How you doing?
I think that's funny because I was just listening to one of our older episodes, and that's exactly what you said. I'm the hostess with the mostest and all that. I'm not sure you did that the last two. Did you do that?
I don't think so, but I really like it, and it's very appropriate now that we're doing short-term rentals.
Oh, that is true.
I know.
That's a good point.
Yes. I think it was always subconscious or subliminal.
Yeah, maybe you are just the hostess with the mostest.
I am the hostess with the mostest, and anybody that stays at any of our properties will tell you.
Yes.
So today's podcast is all about how to get started in your short-term rental business.
Yes, because we've had people ask us, right? So we've been doing this a little while and kind of putting it out to some of our more, focus groups and that kind of thing. And I'm talking social media like Facebook. So we're in some mentoring groups. We're leaders in one of those groups, and we've kind of been putting out our content as far as what we're doing and all that kind of thing, just to kind of a captive audience.
Yeah, we haven't really been putting it out.
It's a closed group. Let's put it that way.
To our regular Facebook page.
It's a closed group, so not everybody sees it. So we're not throwing that out on our personal page up to this point. Well, I guess everybody will know about it now.
Well, you made a post on your personal page not too long ago.
Yeah, just recently, though.
Yep.
We've been doing this over a year. So
it has been fairly recently since we have come out of the closet.
Out of the closet. That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah, right. So that's interesting in that respect. But at the same time, it's kind of like now not because we went public normally, but from these other groups, we've had people message us saying, hey, we'd love to learn what you guys are doing because they're seeing us having success or whatever, and we'd like to do that too. And we're kind of getting those requests like, hey, can you create a course on that? Or,
right,
is there some kind of coaching available and that kind of thing? And
somebody asked me to write a book.
Yeah, a book. That would be a great one, right?
Maybe in next year.
Yeah. So yeah, the book thing, I don't know about that. The problem with this business is it's very new. Meaning Airbnb didn't even exist until like 2008, right? So that's relatively new. I mean, you're thinking, well, that was like 11 years ago.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that that was 11 years ago.
Yes, but that's relatively new, is it not?
I guess in the grand scheme of things.
When was the first time you heard of this? I'm saying Airbnb because, again, we don't really like that term because as business owners, that's just a platform. But they did popularize it, right? Kind of like Uber popularized ride sharing. There's Lyft, there's other ones too. Just like Airbnb, there's VRBO, there's HomeAway, there's all these other platforms. But
right.
Typically, kind of like people say Kleenex instead of tissue, you hear people say Airbnb, right? So when did you first hear of it?
That time that we went to Florida that we talked about in one of the previous podcasts. It was either the last podcast or the podcast before that. That was the first time that I had ever heard the term.
But that wasn't 10 years ago.
No, it was only 2 years ago.
Right. So it's relatively new. And I think that's part of it is people kind of didn't know what to do with it at first. And now you've got kind of this kind of entrepreneurs like we are using those, that idea and those platforms to market something that's been around actually for a long time. As far as short-term rentals go, there just wasn't the technological way to market them. But it seems to be trendy. I was talking to somebody today. Actually, we both were, and it was actually a mentor of ours. And I kind of made the comment. Have you had this experience too, where my analogy was like you buy a new car. Like we got the Suburban. We bought the Suburban. And I've never noticed Suburbans like before that, before I was looking for one, before I owned one. But now that I have one, I see them everywhere.
Sure.
And so I don't know if I think it's probably a combination of what I was going to say is I don't know if like now I see everybody wanting to do an Airbnb or everybody wanting to do a short-term rental or a VRBO or whatever you want to call it. And I don't know if it's because we've been focused on that here recently and now we see like all these other people wanting to do it, or if it's been there the whole time, or if it just happens to be like the new trendy thing to do with your real estate holdings. What do you think?
I think it's probably a combination of those things.
I think so, probably too.
I think it's probably a lot of other people hearing that other people are doing it and making a substantial amount of money doing it, and they want to try it as well.
True. And it's a lower barrier to entry, right?
It is, sure.
I mean, you can get into this business for relatively, if compared to real estate,
sure,
cheaper. You know, for $10,000 or $15,000, you can have one up and running. Isn't that a correct statement?
Yes, I would say depending on how large of a unit you're furnishing.
That's true. Yeah.
10 on the lower end, 20 on the high end.
Right. So what we wanted to talk about tonight, and I'm pointing at Wendy because she's the segue person,
is the very first step. So the very first step in starting a short-term rental business is determining your customer. Who do you want to serve? So you have to think about that first because it will determine everything else.
That's so true. And I think once we learned that changed the game.
It did.
Because I think a lot of people, like I said, it's very trendy. So I see a lot of our real estate investor friends and associates, they see that, oh, well, I could be renting my place for so much more if I did it short-term basis. And so they're kind of trying to convert their current holdings into that without realizing that that's kind of backwards. Or somebody will find a property that doesn't quite make sense traditionally as far as the numbers go, but then they'll say, well, if I could turn it into a quote Airbnb or short-term rental, then the numbers would make sense. And that's kind of backwards from what we have found to be most effective, right?
Yeah, because in the general real estate rental market, that's what you do, right? Is you go find a property and you say, okay, well, I'm going to either fix it up and rent it out, or I'm going to fix it up and flip it and sell it.
Or I'm going to wholesale it, or
whatever.
Oh, there's a tons of exit strategies, right? And I think the mistake a lot of people make. That's a really good point, Wendy, because I think a lot of the mistake that's being made there is they're kind of turning this into another exit strategy.
Yes, and that was exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, and you can do that. I'm not saying that you technically can't, because you can take a location and say, okay, who might stay here? But that makes it just another exit strategy. It's not your primary business. And I think that's a mistake people make, is not treating this as a separate business from real estate. It's because it's not, right?
Because it is not the real estate business.
It's not. It's hospitality
business. Hospitality business. You are in it to cater to a specific customer.
Yes.
Your guest. But you have to determine who you want that customer to be first before you even find a location. I think a lot of people do that backwards. They find a location and say, hey, I can turn this into a short-term rental. But what we are saying is, no, that's not the way to go. The way to go is to determine your customer first.
Yes.
Who do you want to serve?
Yes, and that's the difference between treating this as a real estate venture, which it's not.
Exactly.
And treating it as a hospitality business.
Yes, that's exactly right.
It would be the difference between suppose a Holiday Inn came in and said, oh, here's a piece of property, we'll build a hotel, and then try to figure out who might stay there.
Right.
That's not the way they operate,
totally
right?
Backwards. No, they don't do that.
They say, where's the demand for the type of customer a Holiday Inn serves?
And then they find a location to build their hotel or motel at.
Correct.
Yes.
And so they, and just segueing into that, a Holiday Inn serves a different customer than, say, a Ritz-Carlton or a Hilton or whatever, right? There are different levels. A Red Roof doesn't serve the same customer as the Omni uptown here in Charlotte. That's a really
we talked
kind of
about
nice
that
high-end
in the
hotel,
last podcast.
We did.
Talking about the Walmart customer, the Target customer, and the Nordstrom customer.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. So if you're looking to start getting into this business and you feel like short-term rentals is where I want to be and it fits with what I want to do, then the first thing you need to do is define who your customer is.
Who do you want to serve?
And you need to get really specific about it, don't you?
Yes, I would say so, for sure, because it determines everything else that you will do. It determines what you put in your unit, where your units are,
what you charge.
Yes, exactly.
What your price points are.
Yes, very good point.
The quality of stuff you put in there.
Basis for the rest of your business.
It really is. And I think that's where you need to start. So I could give some information about how do you determine that, but we determined our customer basically based on who we are and what we understand. And I think that's the easiest place to start.
Well, it was someone that we could relate to because we are that customer.
Yes. So we serve families with children, like we mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're somebody that's a business traveler, then maybe you're more familiar with that market and what that person needs and wants, right? And so maybe that's where you should be. Maybe instead of like us, we serve families with small children. So we do things like pick safe neighborhood. Well, you can't say safe, but I mean, we're trying to pick like family friendly areas, like near
with
parks.
Parks, exactly. Yes.
We're trying to pick places that are potentially
fenced in backyards.
Yes, or near places that you would take children to, like Carowinds, which
Discovery
is
Place,
a theme park here.
Right.
Discovery Place is kind of like a children's museum type place. It's interactive.
Right.
Those type of things. Maybe it's somebody that's, maybe it's near like help me out here, like
a hospital.
A hospital, yeah. Like maybe you have
a child in the hospital,
maybe you have family in the hospital,
or a
and
family
you have to bring
member in the hospital. Yeah.
And so we serve that kind of customer.
Yes.
People coming for funerals and weddings that we've discussed before, but we know who that. I call it an avatar. Other people do too, but I like that way of saying it. It's like what's my avatar for my customer?
Your ideal customer,
yes.
In other
words.
What
do they look like?
What do they look like? Yes. Give them a name and a face.
Yes. And what do they need and want?
Yes.
And then go look for locations that serve those people. And then when you find that location, put the amenities in your unit that appeal to that customer.
Okay, you just dropped like a whole bunch of bombs right there in one sentence.
But that's the business model, because those are the customers I'm after. Then I need to give them what they want.
That is beautiful. I hope you guys are paying attention, because what he just said is the whole key to the short-term rental business in your success.
And it really is, because it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, is like, I don't know if this is like, it's trendy and like now everybody's doing it, or if I'm just noticing that everybody's doing it because I'm doing it now. But that's how you can set yourself apart. And that's why they will rent my unit over your unit, because we cater to families with small children.
Well,
and families with small children are going to book with us over you because we aren't generic.
Well, we have thought of everything that a family with small children would need.
Yes. So when they're
detailed details.
Yes. When they're perusing Airbnb or perusing VRBO, or maybe maybe they found our direct booking site, because we do that too. What they're looking for is something that speaks to them. And our units don't speak to necessarily somebody coming here that's single that wants to do the party scene downtown. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if that's your customer, then you've got a different message. And I think that a lot of people make that mistake, is they just kind of don't know who their customer is, and they kind of just set it up and say, I'm just going to take some pictures and throw it out there, and whoever books.
And you can be successful with a smaller number of units doing that, but it's not scalable.
Right, and it's probably not sustainable over the long term, because then you don't really have a defined... How can you have a business that doesn't have a defined customer?
Yes. It literally is the basis for everything else that you do.
It really is. And if you're thinking of this as this is a business instead of just something else I can do with my real estate, then now you've made the mindset shift that you need to make that turbocharges everything else you're doing, right?
That is key. That is key right there. It is a mindset shift, because you have to, if you want to be successful and scale your business, your short-term rental business, you have to treat it as a business, not just an exit strategy.
Yes. And step one is, who do I want to serve?
Yes.
Right.
So there's lots of different customers. Like we mentioned, we serve families with children coming into town for life events such as weddings, funerals.
They could just be here on vacation.
They're here to visit,
or they're visiting family
members in the hospital, or visiting family members for
any reason, really.
Some kind of holiday, whatever it is. But we cater to families with children.
And that's who books.
Yes.
Mostly.
It is.
I mean, you're going to get some overlap from other people that don't quite fit what you're targeting. And you'll still get those bookings, but the vast majority tend to be who you market to.
It is.
And how you market in a lot of ways is what you provide. And so you have to think about that. That something else you could do, like I mentioned earlier, is, hey, I want to cater to business travelers.
And that's a huge market.
So they have different needs than we do, right? Like we put pack and plays, we put strollers in, we put, board games in, all this kind of stuff. None of that matters to a business traveler.
Right. Business travelers want fast internet.
Maybe a printer. Something else I've seen people put in business traveler units is like it's called the Swash system, which I think is a brand name.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
It was like a portable dry cleaning deal,
right. Mm-hmm.
Which is really cool, by the way.
That is really cool.
But, if you're here on business and you've stuffed everything in your suitcase, maybe you want to be able to, pull out your shirts and have them not be wrinkled, and you can kind of put it in the system. But my whole point is they've catered that to a business traveler.
Well, the devil is in the details.
It is. And because I'm a business traveler, I'm going to see a high chair and say, I'm not willing to pay more for that. But this swash system over here where I can get dry cleaning in my unit, I want to book that place over somebody else's.
Cool as shit, yes.
Where the family traveler sees the swash system and says, I don't care about that because I'm not dry cleaning my kids' stuff because they outgrow it like every week. But I really like the fact that there's a pack of play and board games and a stroller. So that's how there's not competition there, right?
Exactly.
Even though we both have short-term rentals, we're serving different communities.
We're serving different customers.
And then there's the third person that they owned a condo and they decided, hey, maybe we can make more money if we just stick it on Airbnb. And it's very bland and generic, and they're the last to be booked because the business traveler picked the swash system place, the family traveler picked our place, and because our places were booked, the third person took theirs, right?
Well, they can't charge the
and by the way, exactly, they can't charge a premium. I can charge a premium because I'm serving a specific customer. That's
exactly right. And my customer is willing to pay for the amenities that I put in my units.
Yes, and where it is. And where it is. And it all goes back to the first thing you need to think about is, who do I want to serve?
Yes.
And that should drive everything else you do. It should drive the property that you have. It should drive the amenities that you provide. It should drive the marketing that you do. Everything.
Amount you charge. Yes. And there's plenty of avatars to choose from. I mean, who are you? Have you ever stayed at a short-term rental? Think about that first.
And why did you stay there?
And why did you stay there? Why did you choose the location that you chose? Was it because you were there for a Panthers game? Probably not, because they're not going to the playoffs. But
not this year.
Maybe you are a Saints fan like I am, and they are going to the playoffs.
Right, or like some of the ones we've stayed in were at near. We did in Florida. Remember the one we stayed in Florida?
We stayed in a house because it had a swimming pool,
and it was close to the places we were going to. So that particular person, it was kind of generic, and I don't know that it was marketed that way. But the reason we stayed there is because it was in proximity to where we were going,
the location, and the swimming pool.
And it had the swimming pool because we had the kids.
Yep. That's right.
And that's why we booked it. It wasn't because
it was decorated a certain way or
right. But that helps too, but it wasn't.
It does, but I mean it wasn't because it had a washer and dryer or
that may be important to certain people though. If I'm going to stay long term, then
it depends.
I want a washer and dryer, but don't. The kind of point is, don't try to be all things to all people.
Yes, be specific.
You're better off being very niche.
Being very niche is the way to go.
It's saying this is the person I want to serve, and I'm going to go set up my units to serve that customer.
But it has to be somebody that you identify with. I
don't think it has to be.
I do, because
I think that's the easiest way to start for sure.
It is. It is going to be the easy way to start. That's true.
But I think you could, if I had a particular, because I don't know anything about traveling nurses. I don't. But I can go do research on them and say they probably want to be near hospitals.
Well, that's true.
What kind of amenities are they looking for? You can do market research, and
it's just easier.
But it's definitely easier. If this is your first one, third one even, I would suggest that you start where you're familiar.
Yes.
And I think that's what you were kind of trying to say. That makes it a lot easier.
It really does.
Because you already know what you like.
Yes.
Right? And it gives you a really good, you don't have to do the market research. You already kind of know
just think about what you would want when you go traveling somewhere. And when I go traveling somewhere, I really want a Keurig machine because I'm a coffee drinker. So that's one thing. Because I am a coffee drinker, I put Keurigs in every single one of our units.
That's a good point.
But I also realize that not everyone drinks coffee, and some people drink tea. So we also put tea and a kettle in all of our units.
Right. And I think that's a good point. But at the same time, that's not specific.
What? It is too.
I would challenge you a little bit and tell you that there are lots of people that drink coffee. Traveling nurses drink coffee. People with children drink coffee. People on business drink coffee. And it's a nice thing to have in your unit. But specifically, that example is not a reason I would pick your unit over another if I was a family with children.
Maybe
a stroller is a better example.
I don't know, because I really like coffee. I really like coffee in the morning.
I get
and
what
if
you're saying.
if I had a choice, and this person over here had a unit that had the exact same amenities that I did, and I had a Keurig and this other person did not, guess which one I'm going to pick?
I get what you're saying, but I totally agree. Totally agree with what you're saying. All I'm saying is I'm not sure that necessarily fits into who's my avatar, because there are a lot of things that are generic that are going to be the same across a lot of units. Like everybody likes a comfortable bed.
That's true, and we do have very comfortable beds.
But there are certain things that you want to put in your unit that are specific to the customer that you're serving. I'm not sure that coffee is necessary. I'm
sorry, but
I think it's very generic.
If you're a mother, you need coffee.
You are, and it's not that they don't. I'm just saying that it's not specific to the customer you're targeting.
Mothers.
Okay. We'd have this discussion.
I'll rest my case. Mothers. All you mothers out there, feel me. I know you do.
I know, but I'm just...
Okay, whatever.
Do you get my point?
Yeah, I get it.
You get it. You don't like it.
No, I get it. But I'm just saying that a Keurig is very nice to have when you have been up for
Is
all
there
night.
A unit that you would not put a Keurig in?
No, I will put Keurigs in every single one of my units from henceforth.
Would you put that in every unit no matter what customer you would be serving?
Yes, I would.
That's my point.
Okay.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
I get it. But only because I am a coffee drinker.
Yeah, and what you were trying to say is I want to put stuff in my unit that I like.
Yes.
And I think you're you're correct in that point. But I think the better point to make is start with an avatar that is like you, and you're right, that's part of it. What do I like? But what do I see? Here's the thing: is what do I like as a mother with small children?
Coffee.
And coffee is definitely one of them. So you're not wrong.
Of course not.
So you're not wrong.
I'll rest my case.
Okay. I do not ever win these arguments from Wendy. She always rests her case.
Truth.
But that's the point we were trying to get across, and we've kind of said it like 5 times now. But I think that's a good place to start.
It's so important, though.
It really is important, and that's why we stress it so much.
It dictates everything else that you do in your business, and it's important to think of it as a business.
Yeah.
If you are looking at acquiring more than 3, 4, 5, I think that you could probably do it on a small scale with 1, 2, or 3. But if you're looking to get more than that, then really this is the way to go.
Can I go a little deeper than that?
Oh,
I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with how many units you have.
really?
Because it's not. I can see your point, because now I've got to, like, if I'm trying to scale, then it's better to have for lack of a better term, cookie cutter stuff, because that means that now I'm not have like 10 different systems because I just have 10 different units. But I would say it in a different way. Just I think of it longer term, because the reality of it now, because we were just talking about this, Airbnb and the short-term rental market is very new. And that's part of the reason you see a lot of people just jumping into it, because they can.
Well, they can, and they can be successful.
And you can go make money. You don't have to do anything that we said on this episode. You don't have to think of it that way. You don't have to think of it as a business. You don't have to think about who your customer is. Literally, the truth is, I can take my cell phone out, go down to one of the rental properties we have right now, take pictures of it, stick it on Airbnb, and make more money than I'm going to be making in rent currently.
Yes.
Can I not?
Sure.
And give no thought to who my customer is.
That's true.
Give no thought to where my decor is. Give no thought to anything.
But I would say that once you get more than 3 of those.
I disagree.
4?
I think I could do that 50 times.
What?
I think I could do that 50 times and
that's
just fine.
Going to be an all-day job for you.
No, but you're talking systems. I'm talking about not giving any thought to who my customer is. I can have great systems and not give any thought to my customer is.
That's
can
true.
I?
That's true. You could. I agree.
But the difference is going to be 5 years from now. The difference is going to be 10 years from now.
Well, sure. That's not. It's not. It's not sustainable.
Why is it not sustainable though? It's not scaling though. It's not the number of units. It's because people like us
who treat it
or
like
people
a
like
business,
you that have thought about that and thought about who their customer is.
We're going to dominate the market.
You're gonna get bookings that the other people aren't, because they haven't thought about who their customer is.
We have what our customer needs.
Yes. And that's the difference. That's why you really need to do it.
Yes.
You need to think long term.
That is a really good point. Very good point. Well,
all right. So Emma has just shown up. Emma hit her presence. This usually ends a lot of our podcasts.
Yeah, it sure does. Well, thank you for tuning in to another exciting episode of The Cash Flow Couple.
I think that gave some value, though, didn't it?
I think so.
I felt like that was really valuable to know.
I think so. Sure.
I think that'll change your mindset if you really take that to heart.
Yes. You can, if you have any questions about it, you're welcome to send us an email, info@thecashflowcouple.com, or on Facebook at The Cashflow Couple. Anything else I'm missing?
No, I think that's it. I get it. You haven't done it in a long time.
It's been a long time.
So I think you covered the main two. But yeah, it actually helps us if you subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe, and
on your
let us
platform
know
of choice. Like on the iTunes, you can hit subscribe, or on I'm on Android, so I use Castbox. But there's Google Play. There's whatever you use. If you'll subscribe to it, it helps other people find content that they might want to hear too. And
we're going to continue to do this as a series of sorts.
Yeah. So last week they taught us about, finding our customers. So maybe next week we'll do the next step.
Yep. We'll do the next step next week. So tune in and thank you for joining us. Merci. Au revoir.